Hello everyone, myself Dr. Sayyid Abrar. Welcome back to my channel. Today we will see the brief description of the skull. This is the skull. The skeleton of head is known as skull. It is made up of different bones which are fused together to form the cranium. It also includes the lower jaw or mandible, which is a separate movable bone. The term cranium and skull are often used synonymously. It is subdivided into two main parts: the upper part or calvaria or brain box, which includes the brain, and rest of the skull consists of facial skeleton including the mandible. Then the different bones of the skull. There are 28 bones of the skull, which is divided into cranial bones and facial bones. 14 are the cranial bones. Of these 14 cranial bones, 5 are paired bones and 4 are unpaired bones. The paired bones are, this is the parietal bone, this one is the temporal bone, and 3 ear ossicles in the middle ear, which are malleus, steps, and incus. The unpaired bones are 4 in number, which are frontal bone, anteriorly, posteriorly, occipital bone, this one butterfly shaped bone is the sphenoid bone, and this is the ethmoid bone. Then the facial bones. There are 6 facial bones, 6 pair of facial bones. These are maxilla, paired maxilla, zygomatic bone, nasal bone, inferior nasal conchae. This one is the palatine bone. This thin plate of the bone is the lacrimal bone. These are the paired facial bone. 2 unpaired bones or 2 unpaired facial bone are, this is the vomer. This vertical plate like bone is the vomer, and second is the mandible, or that forms the lower jaw. These are the facial bones. Joints of the skull. Skull mainly consists of sutures, some primary cartilaginous joint, and 3 pair of synovial joint. 3 pair of synovial joint are present, 2 in the ear, that is between malleus and incus, and between incus and steps, and third largest synovial joint is between temporal bone and the mandible, that is the temporomandibular joint. This joint is the temporomandibular joint, by which we can laugh, eat, smile. Then the sutures, there are different types of suture. There are 5 types of suture. First is the plain suture. Example of the plain, this one is the plain suture. Example is internasal suture between 2 nasal bones. Second is the serrate suture. The margins are serrated. This suture, that is known as, example is the coronal suture between frontal bone and 2 parietal bone. Another example of the serrate suture is the sagittal suture or interparietal suture between 2 parietal bone. Third suture is the denticulate or dentate suture. This suture is the denticulate suture or dentate suture between occipital bone and 2 parietal bones. Fourth suture is the squamous suture. The margins are flat. This is the squamous suture. Example is parieto-temporal suture between parietal bone and the temporal bone. Last is the syndialysis. Here this is the wedge and groove like suture between rostrum of sphenoid bone and the ala of Woomer. This is known as syndialysis. Anatomical position of the skull. Skull can be oriented in one of the two ways, that is the two planes. First is the Reed's baseline and another is the Frankfurt's horizontal plane. The Reed's baseline is the horizontal line obtained by joining this is the infraorbital margin to the center of external acoustic meatus. This is the external acoustic meatus like this. This is the Reed's baseline. Another is the Frankfurt's horizontal plane. It is obtained by joining the infraorbital margin with the upper margin of the external acoustic meatus like this. This orientation is known as Frankfurt's horizontal plane. Then the methods of study of skull. The skull can be studied as a whole. The whole skull can be studied in different views. That is, this is the superior view, also known as norma verticalis. This one is the anterior view, norma frontalis. This one is the posterior view or norma occipitalis. This one is the lateral view or norma lateralis. This is the inferior view, also known as norma basalis. Then this skull is studied internally or from inside after removing the cranial vault like this. It can be studied as an internal surface of the cranial vault and internal surface of the cranial base. This internal surface of the cranial base is naturally divided into three parts: anterior, middle and posterior cranial fossa. And this skull is also studied by the individual bones like maxilla, frontal bone, mandible, etc.